and welcome to another teacher talk session tonight. Tonight we are going to have another educator from different part of the world. Tonight our guest is from Spain, and she is a teacher trainer and teacher and also creator of Kids Club English, Fiona Hunter. When she comes, we are going to start our live session with her, and we are going to talk different topics with her tonight. Just like, how can I say it, and the interesting moment about our sessions, all about the Kids Club English and the tips for getting attention of preschool students and using craft in language classes, and benefits of flipbooks and benefits of puppets, and suggestions for new teachers, and lots of other topics. So let me invite her, then we can start. When she comes, we are going to start. There she is.
Oh, no, that's
Hi,
my
Fiona. But we can't see you.
No,
We see your light.
yeah, I don't know how to turn it around. Oh, here.
No, wonderful. Okay, it's great. It's wonderful. Yes, welcome, Fiona. It's great to see you, and I would like to say thank you very much for accepting my invitation for Teacher Talks and being my guest tonight. It's great honor to have you in this session.
Thank you very much. No, it's an honor to be here, so thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. And if you're ready, and we can start, because I know that you are very busy, so I don't want to, to take your time too much. And so if you're ready, we can start. Are you?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So let's get started. I know about you, Fiona, but maybe our followers would like to know about you, or also the watchers would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Okay. I'll try and be brief, because I do tend to kind of go on.
Take your time. No problem.
I'm from Scotland originally, and yeah, I think I always wanted to be a teacher. This was always kind of my plan, apart from there was a time I really wanted to be a volcanologist, like study volcanoes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm a teacher, but anyway, no, I did always want to be a teacher, and I've kind of, I've had the whole kind of experience at different levels, in different age groups, and I've been lucky enough to teach in the UK, but Spain and Argentina and South Korea, and then I've been back in Spain, and now I live in the south of Spain, and I've been here for about 9 years now, and I've basically ended up specialising in young learners and very young learners for that time, really. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And so what was or were your turning point or points in your own education?
There's probably quite a few, but I'll talk about one that's maybe a bit more relevant to what I'm doing now. So
I see. Okay.
I was working in South Korea, and I taught kids before. I've taught kids throughout my teaching career, but I hadn't really taught a lot of very young learners before. And it was while I was there, and I was doing the TILEC, we called it. So was it the TILEC? Yes, it was an extension course for teaching young learners. And my line manager at the time, he observed one of my lessons, and that was the first sort of experience for me where I was teaching infants with picture books, which I loved, and it's really influenced what I'm doing now. But the feedback was what kind of got me thinking. So, and the part of the feedback was about finding opportunities to incorporate more retelling of the story.
I see.
And I hadn't really thought about that, because I think up until that point, I'd heard, what a lot of people would say, young kids, they're like sponges, they'll just soak it up and they'll start using it. and I hadn't really given that much thought to language acquisition for kids and what that would require
I
for them to actually be able
see.
to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So him talking to me about that, finding opportunities to be able to retell the story and reuse that language so the kids could hear it again. That's something that's
I
really, I think,
see.
informed my practice I've developed for myself.
Interesting. It's very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing. Would you like to share another one? Or these are okay?
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much, Fiona. And so let's move to another question. I know that you have been teaching for a long time, and probably you have used different methodologies and maybe techniques and strategies during your teaching or maybe or teaching career. So probably you have a philosophy about teaching. So what is it? What is your philosophy of teaching?
It's a tricky
Hard question, huh?
question. Yeah. I think I could probably say three main things, I guess. When it comes to teaching, it would probably be different if I was thinking about adults or teenagers, but for kids and very young kids, I think the best thing that we can do, or the gift that we can give them, is to inspire that kind of
Uh-huh.
motivation to learn for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. If we can give them, if we can kind of spark that kind of motivation and interest in English, then
I
they'll do
see.
the learning for themselves. I think they'll seek out those opportunities. So I think we've got to kind of inspire that motivation
Mm-hmm.
and engagement. I think another thing kind of relates to what I said before. I think we've got to use a lot of open-ended activities with children so that so it's more inclusive and everyone can participate according to their own ability.
I see.
So whether for
Mm-hmm.
some children in the same class, there's often mixed, we talk about mixed ability with mixed age groups, but in any class of kids, you've got
I
mixed
see.
ability. Everyone's developing at a different stage. So I, for one child, they might need to hear that language more often.
Uh-huh.
For another child, they're already at the point where they can produce some of it. So I think we need to, when we're choosing the activities for a classroom, we need to be thinking about how we can cater to all of
I
that. And I think the
see.
easiest way is to do open-ended activities. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the last one is more about, and this kind of comes more kind of from my experience
Uh-huh.
in Spain, but I think is relevant probably to other countries too,
I see.
where there has been in the past sort of a culture more of seeing like English as a subject to be studied, just like
I
anything
see.
else. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that as educators, one thing we can do is try to help kind of break down that idea, to kind of show them that English is something that's alive, it's in the world, and give them kind of, avenues to explore that. And that's where I think like authentic materials again and picture books, that songs, music, that comes into play. So
That
yeah,
come in play.
that's
I see. Thank you very
that's the
much. It's
philosophy. I
wonderful.
mean,
That's great. Really. Thank you very much. It's very interesting in the philosophy and it's very useful that the things that you mentioned for us. Thank you very much. So let's move to another question. So can you tell us about, I know that you are also trainer and you are as a working a trainer. So can you tell us about the support that you provide for the language teachers and how do you help them as a trainer and what do they need most from you?
well, I would say that, to be honest, in recent years, I'm not a formal trainer.
I see.
Like in the past, I've been a tutor on the Trinity certificate course and their Young
Uh-huh.
Learners Extension course, and I have done. Been lucky enough to have that experience. Really great, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm really involved with now. I mean, now I'd say that I make these teaching tips videos, so they're kind of just little nuggets to kind of either make teachers think or give them just practical things to use in the classroom. I do have like a teaching tips section on my website where I was writing articles, although that's something I've been trying to find time to get back to for a while, but in that sort of informal support way.
I
And then,
see.
teachers would contact me and to ask for advice on things. I'd say, that kind of a range of things, from kind of creating courses around picture books, or creating it's not all picture books but how to use maybe some of these materials or activities that maybe aren't traditional course book type
I
activity,
see.
how to
Mm-hmm.
integrate that and how to create a syllabus where you're still covering the content. And then of course, like with young kids, if people are new to it, there's always, classroom management's always a big thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean,
These
I mean,
kind of things.
yeah, I think a lot of it is confidence as well, that's just been, yeah, like being able to kind of talk through some of the things that are happening, and just feel
Mm-hmm.
confident to take risks and be more flexible in the classroom. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Nice.
yeah, there's a difference between, well, there's not a difference, but if you're teaching with a course, there tends to be more of a firm structure. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, you can kind of follow that. Yes, you expand on it, and yes, you add in other things.
Uh-huh.
But I think for the teacher, it's quite a secure thing. You've got the structure that you follow, and I think a
Sure.
lot of people that talk to me, they're interested in doing other things. But
I got it.
how do you do that and structure it? Like, what does it look
Mm-hmm.
like?
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Fiona. So let's move to another question about the support that you give to the teachers. Thank you. When you think about your training sessions or presentations or etc., what was or were the most interesting situation or situations that you faced?
Um, okay, well, I'm top something that I've kind of realised recently, I suppose. I don't know if this is qualified as the answer to your question, but so this year in March, I was lucky enough to speak at the TESOL Spain conference, and that was a really big deal for me, because it's like I I've basically, yes, I've been teaching for a long time, but I've half hid away in my little corner. I can be quite shy, so I haven't really been in the kind of the teaching community for a long time. It's been the recent last couple of years where I've been kind of participating more. And so I've never been to like a conference like that before, and it was a real eye opener, because you had the chance to speak to so many other professionals. That obviously, my interest is with young learners and very young learners, and
Uh-huh.
I think it's realizing that even in quite a, it's not, yes, it was international to some extent, but really still quite a narrow context.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a tendency, and I'd say I was guilty of this as well, where you kind of assume that, other teachers, yeah, they've got the same beliefs, they do the same activities, the classes kind of look the same. It's, you sort
Uh-huh.
of assume, and I was kind of aware that actually, no, it's quite diverse, even within this quite a narrow context. And I kind of felt like, okay, well, there needs to be more. I want to take part more in the kind of the discussion and the sharing of those
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and facilitate maybe the dialogue around that more. Like, well, what you're doing is fantastic. You're getting a lot of educators on, and
I see.
and sharing
Thank you.
their points of view, and I think that's important, because I think in your day to day, we don't see
Mm-hmm.
that, and I think that's really valuable. That's a really valuable thing that comes out of training and giving sessions, and that
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. So, have you done it? Would you like to add anything else, or I can move to another
You can,
question?
you can move on. I told you,
Okay.
I go
So,
on.
okay, not a problem. I know that you have the online platform with Kids Club English. It's really, the popular over there. And like, what is this? What is Kids Club English? And can you tell us about this on page, and how can teachers become a member of it? So, how can they get benefit of the page, and who can use it, and how can the become a member of it as not only teachers, or can other people become a member of it? Just can you tell us about your page?
Um, it's had a few different lives, I think. Now I think we're on to the third life. So I'll tell you about I'll tell you a bit about the background so that you
Sure,
understand what
of
it is.
course, of course.
First of all, I set up that website mainly for myself and for the parents of and the families of the kids I was teaching. So I was searching for resources,
Mm-hmm.
creating resources, but searching for songs, searching for storytelling videos, and I was so I've collated all of that,
Uh-huh.
those resources and other resources onto kind of resource pages on the website.
Yeah.
So there's story resource pages and there's topic resource pages. So I was using that in my planning process.
Uh-huh.
When I sort of think, okay, yeah, what goes with that, or what topics can I, use with this book or whatever. So I would go and I'd use it for that, and I'd use it in the classroom. So I'd use it to play songs, because I think it's just changed now. But it used to be like on YouTube, it was really annoying, like where the song would just go into the next song and it'd keep playing. And when
Yeah.
you've got lots of little people and you're trying to do your class, that's awful. It's really disruptive. So that's sort of started with that. And what I was
Yeah.
doing was then sharing these pages with the families, so that
Mm-hmm.
the kids were getting more exposure to English outside the classroom, and they knew what their kids were seeing. So it started with that. But as I said, I was creating a lot of material. Um, so I started self-publishing that material. So now there's a resources section, and that's all material that I've made for use in my own
I
courses, and I've self-published there.
see.
That's there. And it's got this teaching tips section with some articles, and the teaching tips videos and things are there, kind of organized in categories. So it's got quite a lot on it. The resources, there are some free resources, but the resources are available for individual purchase, quite a low price,
Uh-huh.
really. I think it's. And at the moment, it's possible to buy a member pass, which is basically an annual subscription, so you've got access to all of the resources. Um,
Wonderful.
so it's been like that. But now, now is really, it's an exciting time for me, because last week I've opened up a founder member community group. So
Oh,
over the years, like and especially in the last while, I've been becoming more aware of, there isn't that much support for this very young learners and young learner teachers,
sure.
and and like as I've said, there's so many great ideas out there that I want to be able to facilitate that sharing of teaching ideas and what's going on in other people's classrooms. So I've set up a Facebook community, which is now part of the membership. And at the moment, yeah, so we started it last week. It's closed to the public now for this period, because I
Wonderful.
wanted to do this with a small group of people. So I've got I think there's about 20 of us involved at the
Uh-huh.
moment. In that group, we're basically going to make this the best it can be, with the view to getting feedback, building this together, and if it works well, and we improve it, then I'll be launching it to everyone in September, I guess, for the start of the school year in the
Wonderful.
normal year. But in that, we've got like webinars, virtual staff room where people can talk about challenges they have. We've got weekly show and tell live videos.
Uh-huh.
So and yeah, we can discuss all things
I
very
see.
young learner related. So
I see. It's
yeah.
wonderful. And if it's okay, can I ask you how much, the teachers or the parents should pay for the website to become a member?
Yeah, so it is for teachers, really, not really parents now, although, I'll still share these pages when I'm teaching
Uh-huh.
my classes, this is what we've been doing. But yeah, it's an annual membership. So it's 95 euros for the year.
Whole year.
But then
Uh-huh.
I kind of think, well, yeah, like at the moment there's like, I think around over 600 euros worth of resources that you've
Mm-hmm.
basically got access to there.
So
And
what
then,
I
and then
see. Mm-hmm. I see. When they become a member, they
Mhm.
can have the access to reach to every, the worksheets, every lessons, every
That-
whatever videos, everything that you have in your website, they can have the
Yeah.
access also.
Right. And yeah, so at the moment, I'm saying this is €95. If anyone went on now and they can, it would be €95 for access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the community isn't open to you right now. Okay,
I
I'm sorry.
see.
But and this is like the founder members that have joined, they're gonna, they were
Uh-huh.
lucky and they thought that for that price, because it'll probably be going up to about 115, I think, when in
Uh,
September, and then it won't be just the resources, it'll be the webinars, the staff room, the community, all of that. Um,
Wonderful,
so
wonderful.
um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is.
Great. Okay, thank you very much about your, the website that you have it. It's really interesting. Would you like to tell about it more, or can I move to another question?
Yeah, I should maybe just mention that, because I keep saying resources, but um, they're more specifically kind of paper-based crafts and games rather than worksheets. There are some kind of worksheets, but what I tend to do when creating these, I've put differentiated different levels
Mm-hmm.
and different ways of
Wonderful.
people in them. So yeah.
It's a great. So can the teachers directly adapt them into their lessons?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they can. What I provide with each resource is activity suggestions. Like I say, I favour quite a flexible approach to teaching, and like quite often I can use one resource across a variety of age
Uh-huh.
groups. When we were talking about the philosophy stuff earlier, I was like, I believe that we should be kind of having these open-ended activities, but I do include within each resource different a range of different ideas for how you can conduct that activity in different ways. And yeah, I think it can take. I think most of the things that are there can take up the kind of
I
core
see.
activity in the lesson.
Uh-huh. I see. Okay. Someone has written something here. Natia, there are so many websites and thousands of worksheets. How will it be different? Is there a new content? And what is special about it?
Right. Okay. So this is what I'm just trying to explain, but probably not very well. So I think that what is out there, and I agree, there are lots of different websites and good ones. I'm not want to criticize or say anything bad, but they tend to be they're one-page worksheets, So it's like and to me that's not really what I go for in my teaching, because I don't really want to give them I don't want the children I'm teaching to feel like I'm giving them exercises. They're not
Uh-huh.
exercises, even if they're kind of fun exercises. So what I do are I use crafts basically, but not elaborate crafts,
Mm-hmm.
paper-based crafts, and the idea is that they're to bring the language to life. So if it's like from a picture book, which is I think a lot of people, they appreciate those resources that I make a lot, because if they're using picture books, you know, you might find something that goes with it, but like, how can you really activate that language and give them the exposure they
Mm-hmm.
need enough times for them to be able to learn it? And so
I
I
see.
think that with things that's what I've had in mind for my own teaching. I've looked at ways to create resources so that the kids can practice the language while before they make the craft. They can practice it while they're making it, and then they can do something with it afterwards, and they can take it home and use it at home with their families. So I've looked at kind of ways to kind of maximize the language practice, I think,
Uh-huh.
maybe more than what some other resources out there, that kind of have more possibilities to them.
Yeah, exactly. I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Fiona, for the answer. All right, so let's move to, would you like to add anything else?
No.
All right then. Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's move to another question. I know that you are a very experienced teacher about preschool students because that's your specialty about it. So can you give us some tips, especially actually I would talk about that it's really difficult sometimes to get the attention of the preschool students to the lessons. So can you give us some tips to get the attention of preschool students during the English lessons? Because I'm sure that the English teachers have really hard times sometimes to get their attentions to the to the lessons. So
Mm.
what tips can you tell us?
I think there's a few different things to say, I think,
Sure.
about that. But I mean, I think it kind of starts with routines. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it'll take a while at the beginning of the school year. It will take them a while, to learn the routines, and that's where I think you really shouldn't be worrying about teaching them lots and lots and lots of new things,
Uh-huh.
because if you spend the time working on just the routines, like how you go, how well do you pick up the kids, or do they come to you? How do they come into the classroom? Where do they go? What's the first sort of activity? How do they go to the next thing? Like those routines, if you're doing the same thing every day, they really help, I think,
I
because
see.
if you've got signals for the transitions and the physical space in the classroom. Like one thing is that I do a lot, I think is useful, is the having a visual kind of it's almost like a visual lesson plan for them. So we'll have like songs, story time, games, uh, craft activity,
Mm-hmm.
and they can see from the pictures, okay, that's what's next. So if that's one thing I think that helps. But if you're in the middle of something and you're trying to get their attention back, there's lots of different techniques that people use. I'm sure they're very familiar with. My favorites are the non-verbal ones, is that there's nothing worse when you're like, in a class, and I think we've all been there, listen please, listen please. And all you're doing is really adding to the noise.
Uh-huh.
And so I think like playing games at the start of the school year where you're teaching them the signal to listen. And I mean, I do that, but I've seen other people do this, but it doesn't really matter what it is, but like just to, I'd say, think about that at the beginning of the school. Okay, and if you haven't done it at the beginning of the school year, it doesn't matter. Just start with playing like a game of Simon Says,
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of
That's a
thing,
really useful game.
um, and teaching them these signals through it. Deciding, I think the other thing that's useful is like having a particular spot in the classroom or a physical space where you go when you want to get their attention.
Uh-huh.
So they'll start to realize, okay, Fiona's there, something's happening now. So there's those, but there's also I think once you've got their attention, it's signaling to the people who notice, because quite often we focus on the children who are distracted. They might be playing something else, or they don't realize that they want your attention, but there are
Exactly.
some
Mm-hmm.
children who are listening,
Sure.
and
Mm-hmm.
instead of focusing attention on them, you're giving the attention to these children.
Uh-huh.
Hey, focus on the ones who are, and I just like give them encouraging little noise. Oh, that's good, very good, good listening. And little by little, the others realize what's happening, and they'll come in and they'll gather around. So it's praising the behaviour that you want,
Uh-huh.
and trying to be consistent with the signals that you
I
use. I have
see.
seen teachers teaching, like, and I'm sure I've done it before in my past, where they've thought, right, okay, I'm going to use a signal, so I'll use this signal. Actually, I don't think this was very young learners. I think it was maybe like primary one or something. Got their attention, and then just carried on to the next stage. Like, okay, so you need to take it
Yeah,
down.
the
But yeah, those are some of my favorites. And then there's other ones like those call and response things. Hocus pocus, everybody focus,
focus.
or
Exactly.
um,
Mm-hmm. I also love them.
yeah. There's a lot of those kind of things. But if you like them, you can. I've used them before and I like them as well. Other things. Sorry, just another one. That I really like. So maybe you're doing this. Um, and some of them are starting to listen. You're going like, okay, good. But there's still quite a few that aren't really. Start doing something with the ones who are listening. And I like those kind of brain break things. So whether it's touch your nose and you hold your ear And then you turn and you change, and then you get faster. And they love it because that's really hard, and the
Yeah,
patting the head and the rubbing the stomach, and the others start to notice what's happening, and that looks fun and interesting, and it's something they have to really concentrate and focus on. So that's really good for kind of bringing the group back together, I think, as
together.
well. There's so many different ways, but they're some of my
I
favorite.
see. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fiona. Let's move to another question. And I know that also, you are very interested in like the flip books, if I'm not wrong. You
Well,
like the flip books. Like can you tell us what maybe the benefits of flip books for teaching English, or in other way, and what do you think about using flip books for teaching English?
right. Well, I'll sort of say, I probably should have stated before, like flipbooks. I know I've got an article on my website about them. I think there's another one on mini books. And flipbooks are just one example of a type of craft that you can do. And so it's one example of the
Mm-hmm.
type of crafts that I make. So like flipbooks are one, which for anyone who doesn't know, I don't have one here to show you, but I can grab a bit of. Here's a really old diary. But yeah, you'd have the pages like cut in two, so you can
Uh-huh.
turn the top and the bottom half independently. So that's one type of craft. Another one would just be like mini books or story wheels. There's so many different kinds of crafts that I make and I use, and the benefit are kind of going back to what we were saying before about um, getting in the number of language practice opportunities that those type of things give you. That's one reason. So, for an example, with flipbooks, then, okay, imagine I've got one that's for. Do you know the smartest giant in town? It's a picture book.
I Smart Giant. I think yes.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a story about a giant, and gradually through the story, he gives his clothes to animals who are, in need for various things. So that's clothes is a vocabulary, topic that runs through it.
Uh-huh.
So I've got one flip book where there's like, you've got the giant with wearing different clothes on top on different pages, pictures of the animals, and on the bottom, obviously, it's separated. So how can you how can they help you teach English? Well, if you had those pages, you cut them up before class and you have them scattered around the room. That's one way where you can be saying, like, I'm wearing a jacket, and then they go around and they find the bit of paper with the jacket.
Yeah.
That's where they collect things that way. So they collect the different food items, clothes items. Then they can do it that way, or you can give each student, put them in charge of a clothes item, and they ask each other for those clothes items if their
Mm-hmm.
level's a bit higher. You've got practice opportunities while they're making it and putting it together. If you're
I
using it
see.
there's so many possibilities, but if you're using it with the story, it could be sequencing skills as well. So what happened first? What item of clothing did the giant give first? Okay, that one, and they put it in order,
Uh-huh.
fix it. You can add in lots of other stages, so you can use colouring dictation type activities, where they're practicing the clothes within sentences. You can, for students who are writing, you can get them to be labeling the clothes. Then, of course, the fun of it is playing with them. So it's like all of
Yeah,
these crafts. I
definitely.
like them to be able to do something with them afterwards. So you could do. They could all have their books, and they could be doing a mingle, put some music on, dance around the classroom, stop
Yeah.
with their partner, trying to guess the page. Are you wearing trousers? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Are you wearing?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do it like that. They could do and they can bring it home as well with their parents and play things. Another thing you can do is play bingo. So they can choose like, 5 items of clothing in their book,
I
just mark,
see.
play bingo. I just think they've got a lot of possibilities. So basically, these type of crafts end up becoming the workbook or the activity book,
I see.
and they're kind of record of learning that then they take home, and then they're excited because they've made it to
Uh-huh.
show their parents. So English starts happening again, and then they can practice again with them, and the parents know what they're seeing in class.
I
So it
see.
kind of goes round and round and round.
Mhm.
But yeah,
It's very,
flipbooks are one
I see.
example, but
Yeah, they're
there's
wonderful examples and really interesting and wonderful using them really. Thank you very much. Let's move to another question, which is I think related with the. I'm gonna ask you the question about the puppets. Now, the puppets are really popular, and it's really the lifesaver I think, in especially in the preschool students. Yeah. So. Can you tell us the benefits of the using puppets for preschool students, and actually what do you think about it, and what kind of positive effects do the puppets have for preschool students?
well.
I was expecting this. Really, I was expecting
Going
that.
through here, no, I'm not going to. I've got a pig, I've got Teddy. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a puppet either. It could just be a cuddly toy. Quite often
Yeah,
I
they're
use.
wonderful.
But yeah, they've got so many benefits. I mean, apart from just being fun,
Uh-huh.
they're good fun. But I think with very young kids, but it's not just with very young kids. I think this is the thing. And I used to be really think, oh, I can't use puppets with primary three. No, like I can't use them with like these like older primary. Yes, you can.
Yeah, we
Like
can.
they love
Hmm.
them, and I mean, you're maybe using puppets in a different way, and maybe you're giving them more control over what they do with them sometimes, and getting them to use puppets. But yeah, all age groups, puppets are great. Actually, that's another turning point I should have mentioned earlier, because I saw a session by John Harrop, who's based in
Mm,
Seville, and he's a puppet master. And it was a session I saw him give
I
about using puppets
see.
that kind of turned me onto them. Um,
Wonderful.
um,
Can you tell me the name again, please?
John
John
Harrop,
Harrop.
and
Okay.
his on Instagram it's Bati Burillo. Maybe I can leave a comment after
Sure,
the live,
we
and
would love to. Yeah, we would love to see it.
because
Okay.
yeah, it's brilliant, brilliant. Um, and yeah, so for young kids, a lot of the time they might be more comfortable, especially talking to the puppet rather than you.
Mm-hmm.
A puppet's more like their peer or something as well. Like you're the adult, and I think there's something about if you're using the puppet with them. I think it makes the relationship building with the children easier. Like I think
Definitely.
it's
Uh-huh.
okay. This person, they might be a bit big, and I'd never met them before, but oh, they like to play. It's all right. There's something about that. Um, Although I would say, like some children are scared of puppets. Like especially
Yeah,
like 3.
there's some of them.
You've got to be careful about how you present them, I think. But they're also just really useful, I think, in the classroom because they're useful for you can use them to play games, you can use them to practice language, you can use them. I like using them in routines at the beginning,
Uh-huh.
where they're feeding the puppet or they're asking the puppet.
Feeding the
And like,
puppet. Nice.
yeah, a group of kids last week. I mean, they want to kiss the puppet.
Nice.
You have to, like, it doesn't, but no, he doesn't like kisses, but he does like hugs. So they ask him for a hug, and they get the.
Wonderful.
So it's kind of a lot of it's good fun, but yeah, you can use them to practice a lot of those personal questions that kids do need to practice a lot as well. So I think they're really useful in that way. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time, and this is one thing that John said, that sometimes I use going back to getting attention. And this was with a primary 2 group. I've got oh, she's here. Hang on a second. Oh,
Ah,
Orla,
very nice of it.
orangutan. I brought her to this primary 2 class, and it was quite a challenging group, and they would be, quite despairing rehearsed at times. When she appears, it's just like, and you've got full attention. If you're wanting to, so I'm trying to show you here because John showed this. The puppet looks at you. The puppet's giving you attention. So then the kid give you attention because so the puppet's like, so they know to listen to you because you're saying something, and then the puppet speaks to them. And then they look at the puppet. So this kind of like, it takes up a little bit of practice, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think there's
It's very kind of a interaction between the puppet and the students, huh? Like when they get their attention.
Yeah, and some of them, and I love this as well. Well, I didn't ask them to, but then for a lot of children, that's their favorite part of the lesson. It's like, oh, the puppet. It started with one group where they were like, well, I can bring, Froggy, and they can come and meet Terry, and like, so they brought their toys. So, and we used to always do this make a circle song at the beginning, but of course the puppets, you need to take them seriously, so they have to be in a circle.
Definitely, yeah, like them.
Arms. But one boy brought in, what did he bring in one day? Like, it was like those little Lego men that you get.
Whoa.
Imagine putting that in a circle.
As a puppet. Oh, nice, very nice.
You could speak too, took part in the conversation. Yeah.
It's nice puppet, really. Thank you very much. But definitely, it's wonderful to using the puppets during especially the preschool kids. They really love it. All right, so let's move to another question. Do you want to say more things about the puppets, or can I move to another? Okay, we talk enough. Yeah, we talk a lot about. Thank you very much for the ideas about the puppet and the suggestions, Fiona. So let's talk about a little bit. The new teachers, what do you suggest for the new teachers to motivate their students for learning a new language? Because, sometimes it's really hard them to motivate to learn a new language, because learning a new language is really, the hard things for them to do, because we are pushing them actually to learn totally different language that they maybe never, hear about it, never heard that language so far. So what is your idea for the teachers? I mean, like suggestions, sorry, for the teachers to suggest, to motivate them?
Yeah, I mean, I think rather than kind of lots of kind of little practical tips, I think it comes down to, it's kind of a recognizing that the children they're not motivated to learn English. They're not. Like, not in terms of that, like the way that adults are. Like, and that what I mean by that is that, there'll be very few young children, who'll be like, oh, I want to speak. It's something about the language itself that they're interested in. Most of them will be interested in being with their friends, being with you, and enjoying the activities that you do in the classroom. So I think it comes down a lot to relationships, and really like focusing on building the relationships with the children so that they have an enjoyable experience, and they associate, being in your classroom, and
I see.
they associate the language, the English language, having a good time. And I think, yes, there are things you can do to inspire them as well. If there's if you're finding out their interests, and there's things that you can bring in, what's in English, maybe like going back to picture books again with younger kids, but actually use them in primary too. Like, the Hungry Caterpillar, everyone knows that. And I'm sure they've seen it and read it in their first language, and then that's empowering. So if you bring that in English, and they're like, oh, I know this and this, and they want to tell you, and like, yeah, look, it's in English too, and then they might be more likely to be interested as well in other books and other things that they can access through English. And so well, I think it comes down to just building that atmosphere where it's an enjoyable experience for them, and recognizing that it's no amount of saying, like, this is important is going to really make them care, I think, that much. Maybe I'm
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Yeah.
I disagree with you.
Yo, got it. I see. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. So let's move to another question. By the way, I'm almost coming the end of the questions because just a
Mm.
couple questions left and time flies. And I hope you are not, I hope you are enjoying it.
Yeah, I am. It's
Okay,
lovely.
wonderful. It's wonderful. Really, it's a fruitful session with you. Thank you very much. So let's move to the critical questions. I really, wonder what I'm going to say about it. So if you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, what would it be and how would it help you?
Oh my goodness. You don't know how much I've been thinking about superpowers. I mean, there's so many that you could have. Um, it's a really hard choice, right? But I think I would I would have to go for like cloning myself immediately.
Ah,
Just certain periods, like because I think there's times where as like a teacher, like still now, I want to be, and I do use a lot of group work um in my classes, but I'd like to be able to be either observing or have my or be able to like write down what I'm thinking at the same
uh-huh.
time, or and just to spend time interacting with that group at the same time as that group. So I think if you were able to like clone yourself, even if it's just for like 10 minutes, that'd be really useful. Do you not think?
Yeah, it's a great superpower. Cloning yourself is really
What's
nice. Yeah,
yours? What's
sometimes,
yours?
especially with the preschool kids, they're really or the kindergarten kids. It's really, really, would be useful
Well, I
to
mean,
clone yourself.
it's amazing. It's amazing when you see, and there are like some contexts, and I'm just really like, oh wow, where you've got like a group of kids, and there's, with a teacher, and there's like, two or three learning assistants. I just think that must
Uh-huh.
be amazing. The possibilities like that would give you. So yeah, yeah.
Wonderful.
What's your superpower?
Actually, I don't know. Actually, I have, but sometimes it depends on the classroom. It depends on the students. I change my minds, sometimes. But probably the mine one could be the reading their minds, especially about the the things that I have taught them
Mm.
in the lessons. Like, have they learned it, or do they have any questions? Because sometimes when you ask them, like actually that's not a the good question. Like, do you have any questions? This is not a good one to ask them, but you need to do it with a different way.
Yeah.
But sometimes the when you say, is everything okay? Or would you like to say anything about it? And would you like to add anything about it? Or when we ask them and they probably say no directly. Even
Yeah.
if they have any questions, they don't say, I have a question or something like this. During that time, I just wanted to, the see what's going on in their minds, or do they really, to learn it, or do they need more, the more practice about it, or something like this. Reading their minds can be
Yeah.
nice, but only during the lesson, not out of the classroom. I don't want to, to read their minds out of the classroom.
I think I would
During the
still
lesson,
want
it's
to
fine.
filter in the class. I still want to filter the mind
Yeah.
reading. Yeah,
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 there should be a kind of a filter only in the classroom. Read their minds, not out of the classroom. Like this, reading their minds can be very useful. Okay, thank you. And nice, the superpower. Okay, just two questions left, Fiona. So
okay.
let me ask you, think that we finish the interview and you step outside the office or home and you find a lottery ticket ends up with $10 million. What would you do?
Uh, my answer would just be really boring, I think. I'm like, I mean, well, there's lots of exciting things you could do. I would probably be really quite practical, and I would make sure that my family and my friends were all okay, and they were sorted. I would have a traveling trip. I mean, for sure. There's still so much of the world I'd like to see, but then I think in terms of the work thing, um,
Uh-huh.
I'd really appreciate. I think it would be amazing that if I had freedom to do. There's a whole load of really great voluntary programs that I'd love to be involved with. Um, but you've got your to pay your bills and all of that stuff. So I think it would give you the freedom
Uh-huh.
to experiment these different ways. But yeah, that's a
I
difficult
see.
question. I would travel. Yeah.
Nice answer. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. And let's get to the last question. Okay. The last question of the session. Are you ready for it? It's very difficult, you know. Okay, let me ask you. What is your motto?
Oh, yeah, the motto. Motto for teachers or the motto for teaching kids?
No problem. It's your choice.
Hmm.
You can say for both if you want, or you can say just for kids or
Okay,
teachers.
well, I'll say because it's kind of I think it's on my website. For teachers, I've got less planning, more learning, more support.
Oh,
I
okay.
won't bore you with all the different reasons. The teaching, I think, is don't forget your inner child. Because I think in a classroom with kids, that's when tensions can start to arise if you
Uh-huh.
lose sight of that and what's maybe going on with the kids. Maybe you're not reading their minds, but like just don't try and be aware of that, the inner child in yourself,
I see.
and don't be
Uh-huh.
frightened to be playful, I think.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for those two mottos for us. Okay. So that's all my questions, Fiona. And before ending our live session, and would you like to add anything else?
No, except just thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure talking to you. Really enjoyed it.
So
It's a surprise.
wonderful.
Like I said, I tend to hide away. So yeah, you've got me out. You've got me on Instagram. It's amazing. No,
Thank you very
yeah, I
much.
really
All
enjoyed
right
it.
then. So before I would like to say one more time, like thank you very much for accepting my invitation for Teacher Talks, and it was really great honor to have you, and we had a really great times. And thank you very much for your suggestions and ideas and advice, and also especially you spend your time with us here. Really, really, that's really important. Thank you for your time, for your precious time. And Fiona Hunter was with us tonight, and we had a really fruitful session with her. And we are going to be here next week on the same day and at the same time, which is on Monday at 9 p.m. And so until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of your Fiona. And bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself and peace. Bye bye and good night.